Once upon a time, in a small village not far from the city, there lived a girl named Layla. She was known everywhere, not because of her kindness, not because of her studies, not even because of her character, but because of her body. She was overweight, and in the eyes of her family and neighbors, that was enough reason to ridicule her, to mock her, and to make her feel like she was less than everyone else. Layla had grown up hearing the cruel words of relatives who never missed a chance to remind her that she was different. Her own parents treated her like a burden. They believed she would never find a good husband, never bring honor to the family, and never be respected. Her sisters were slim, beautiful, and always praised, but she was pushed aside, reminded constantly that she was unlucky. For Layla, food became her only comfort. She ate not because she was greedy, but because it was the only thing that didn't judge her, didn't mock her, and didn't call her names. One day, something unusual happened in the family. A distant uncle from the village came to visit. He was poor, with worn-out clothes, dusty shoes, and a quiet personality. He had come to discuss a land issue with Layla's father. But when he saw Layla, the uncle smirked and whispered to her father, "Such a burden you carry. If you want, I know a man in the village who will take her. He is poor, but at least she won't be your responsibility anymore." Layla overheard those words and her heart shattered. To her family, she was not a daughter. She was a punishment, something to be given away to wipe away shame. Her father's eyes lit up. For him, this was the perfect chance. He agreed instantly, without asking Layla, without thinking of her feelings, and without worrying about her future. The very next week, Layla was married off to the so-called poor farmer, a man named Arif. He looked humble, with rough hands, simple clothes, and a calm face. Everyone laughed at the wedding. Relatives whispered that her parents had finally gotten rid of her. Some even mocked Arif, saying, "Why would you take such a girl?" But Arif said nothing. He simply accepted her quietly with dignity and led her to his home. For Layla, it felt like the end of the world. She had been thrown away like trash, given as punishment to a man she didn't know, a man she believed was poor and powerless. As she entered his small home in the village, her eyes filled with tears. There was no decoration, no luxury, nothing grand. She sat silently, expecting harsh words or cold treatment. But Arif surprised her. He brought her water, asked her if she had eaten, and told her to rest. His voice was gentle, his manner respectful, unlike anything she had experienced in her parents' house. For the first time in her life, someone looked at her not as a burden, not as a punishment, but simply as a human being. Yet Layla didn't trust it. She thought it was temporary. She believed that soon he too would show his disgust like everyone else. Days passed, and she noticed something strange. Arif would leave early in the morning and return late in the evening. He worked hard, but not like the struggling poor farmers she had seen before. His animals were well fed, his tools were new, and his fields stretched farther than her eyes could see. But whenever she asked him about it, he would smile and change the subject. He never spoke of money, never showed off, and never tried to impress anyone. He lived simply, ate simply, and treated her with respect. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, Layla followed him secretly. She wanted to know where he went every day. To her shock, she saw him meeting with workers, dozens of them spread across vast green fields. They called him Sahib, bowing their heads with respect. Some even ran to him with accounts and papers, asking for his signature. Layla froze. This man wasn't a poor farmer. He was the owner of thousands of acres of fertile land. His simplicity had fooled everyone. Tears filled her eyes as realization struck her. Her parents had thrown her away, mocking her by marrying her to a poor farmer, never realizing that this punishment was a blessing in disguise. Arif was not only wealthy but also kind, respectful, and humble, qualities no amount of money could buy. That night, Layla cried silently in bed. Arif noticed and asked softly, "Why are you crying?" She shook her head, unable to explain the storm inside her heart. He reached out, placed his hand gently on hers, and said, "Don't ever think you are less than anyone. To me, you are not a burden. You are my wife, and I will honor you all my life." For Layla, those words healed wounds deeper than any medicine could. Slowly, she began to trust him. She opened her heart, shared her pains, and told him about the years of ridicule she had endured. He listened patiently, never interrupting, never judging. And for the first time, she felt truly seen. Months passed, and Layla transformed. not physically but emotionally and spiritually. She laughed more. She walked in the fields with Arif, and she even helped manage the workers. The villagers who once mocked her now stared in shock. They realized she was the wife of one of the wealthiest landowners in the region. Some tried to come close to flatter her, but she remained humble, remembering the pain of rejection. Her parents, on the other hand, were speechless when they discovered the truth. They had thought they were punishing her, but in reality, they had thrown her into the arms of a man who valued her more than they ever had. When they came to visit expecting to see her miserable, they were stunned to see her glowing with happiness, standing proudly beside Arif. Her father's face burned with shame, but Layla did not seek revenge. She simply said, "You thought I was a punishment, but God gave me a blessing greater than anything you could imagine." And in that moment, her parents realized the depth of their mistake. But it was too late. The daughter they had discarded had risen higher than they could ever dream. The story of Layla spread across the region, reminding everyone that wealth is not always visible, and true value is not in appearances but in character. People whispered about how the obese girl became the queen of thousands of acres, respected by her husband and admired by all. But for Layla, the real victory was not the land, not the money, not even the respect of villagers. It was the simple truth that she had found someone who loved her for who she was, not for how she looked. And as the years passed, she and Arif built a life filled with love, trust, and dignity. Together they raised children who were taught to never judge others by appearance, and who grew up knowing the value of kindness. The punishment had turned into the greatest reward, and Layla's life became proof that sometimes what seems like rejection is actually protection, and what seems like a curse is, in reality, a blessing in disguise.